name is Dr. Tracy Karras, and welcome to the SOH, otherwise known as the state of healthcare. The state of healthcare in the United States, let's be honest, is actually one of illness. We spend far more money than any other nation to receive less care and less quality of care. Walter Cronkite calls it neither healthy, caring, or a system. As a healthcare professional who's had 20 plus years in this system, my focus is on prevention and education and trying to get patients back to actually enjoying happy and functional lives. So it's frustrating to me when I have to watch my patients and my friends and my family fight against a system just to get what little care they do, and oftentimes get a medication thrown at them instead of actually looking for what the problem is, or trying to find a healthier alternative that's not going to damage them in the long term. That's why we're here, so I invite you to join me on this journey. We're going to be starting to raise awareness. Awareness is the first step in any good 12-step program, right, to making change. We have a broken system where only a few people profit, and I'm not picking on all of those hard healthcare workers in the trenches, because those are the people unfortunately getting burnt out and leaving the system, so we need to figure out what's going on. So in this podcast, we're going to be interviewing some healthcare professionals, people in the industry, people surrounding the industry, and try to figure out what's going on here, what's broken for them, what would make their lives easier, and how we're going to do this. So welcome to the SOH, and let's figure out what's going on. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the State of Healthcare. I am here today with Tasha, who is a physical therapist. We all know I love physical therapy, so only slightly biased, but I'm actually going to let Tasha introduce herself, like how long you've been a PT, like what's your background, things like that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Again, my name is Tasha. I'm a doctor of physical therapist. I graduated in 2022. So I have been practicing for 9 months now. So I'm fairly new, but I feel like I understand enough now that I understand what other PTs are talking about now that I have my feet under me. I come from a personal training and bodybuilding background. I started off my love of exercise as a runner, and then I got into bodybuilding, and then I got injured. That's how I got introduced to physical therapy. Mm-hmm. I saw my physical therapist work and I was like, wow, I like this job. You get to exercise all day. I like this a lot. And I was working a desk job. So I started looking into it, and that's the short version of how I got into physical therapy.
Well, so my question is now, what do you love about being a physical therapist? Like, you're in it 9 months, right? You're getting like your feet wet, you're figuring out, and then also like what setting are you in? So like what setting are you in, and like what do you love about being a PT?
Yeah, so right now I'm an outpatient general population, so I see a little bit of everything. My favorite part of being a physical therapist is the kind of healthcare that we can have with our patients. Mm-hmm. And this is what I tell my patients too when they ask me what I like about this particular career, this particular field. For example, you see your PCP. I don't know how often you see your PCP, but let's say you're that person that goes and sees your PCP twice a year.
Right. Your primary care
doctor. Yeah. You see your primary care doctor, your family doctor, twice a year. I feel like you're lucky if you get 15 minutes with that person, right? Yeah. 15 minutes. And I have a fantastic PA that I see as my PCP, and she gives me so much time. But at the end, she's like, I'm so sorry, I have another patient waiting for me. Do you have any last questions? Like, she's great, and she makes sure that I'm taken care of. But like, that's 15
She's on a schedule, right?
Yeah. But for me, I see my patients for an hour of undivided attention, an hour to get to know them, ask them what's meaningful to them, ask them about their grandkids, ask them about their jobs. I get them for at least an hour a week. Some people I get for 2 hours a week. Right. And it's the depth of relationship that you have with your patients. And also, especially with post-op patients, you see them more than their doctor does. So you're the one that's like giving them reassurance of like, yes, that's supposed to be swelling. Like, yes, I know this sucks. You're in the midst of the storm right now. It's okay. So you really have to be an expert of this whole process because you're with them every step of the way, right? Because their doctor is not. Doctors are fantastic at what they do, but they're not hands-on the way that we are as physical therapists. And that's why I chose physical therapy as a healthcare field, because I had some other choices. Okay. In my career of going into other fields of the medical field, but physical therapy, I think, is meant for me. because of how much I love exercise, how much I love exercise and what exercise can do. We obviously have other modalities, but like exercise, very exercise forward.
Okay. We'll get into that. Just out of curiosity, what were your other options you were thinking of?
So for further backgrounds, I am first generation American. So my parents are war immigrants. They're here because of the Vietnam War. So with that comes some of the stereotypes that you get with being first generation. Like your parents really do want you to go be a medical doctor, be an engineer, or a lawyer. Right. Those are like the three choices you're given. Okay. And it's born out of not ignorance in the best way, because they see these jobs as high paying, high status, and that's what they want for their children. They just want the best for you. They don't know that there's other options. Right. Well, there's maybe other options, but not as safe as like, if you do this, then you get this, right? Because it's pretty not secure as like, I'm a doctor, I make lots of money, everybody respects a doctor. Right. So with that, I really had blinders on going into school, in that I was just shooting for medical school my whole life. And I got to a point where I even did an extra master's degree to bolster my resume to get into medical school. And I did. I did. Okay. But I had this come to Jesus moment where I was like, do I really want to do this when I'm not 100% sure? Right. Because I was looking at, because medical school is not just 4 years of medical school. It's 4 year, like 3-year residency at least, 3 to 4 year residency, fellowships. It's just never ending. And so 8 years. Yes. I was not sure about that. And then the lifestyle of doctors, I just wasn't completely sold on it. So I went back to the drawing board and I decided, let's try. Maybe it's not the human aspect of it. Maybe I need to try animals as my patients. Okay. So I shifted gears. I grew up on a farm, really random. I grew up on a farm. I grew up with animals and cows. So I took a couple gap years to bolster my resume to become a veterinarian. Oh, wow. Okay. Was also accepted to veterinary medical school. And then realized in working as a veterinary assistant, wow, this is an awful job, an awful field. If you love animals, it's like if you love animals, you end up as a vet in the vet field, or you don't. And I was the person that did not. Okay. So it taught me a lot. I'm really glad I took those gap years. But those were the two options that I had on the table. But no, those are not for me. Well, I have to say, like, okay, I'm biased also, right? Because I love being a physical therapist, but I feel like on a level that we get to have the doctorate education, but we have the personal connection with people, right? I feel like I make a more, okay, it's going to sound bad, more of a difference on a daily basis, right? You're that person that they can trust to come to and make life changes. But we also get to exercise, right? So it's an active field. I like being active. So it's active. Yeah. But so on some level, like it's not that what doctors do isn't important, but I feel like we get a little bit of the best of both worlds. Although I would like if PTs had a little more respect from the rest of the medical profession, because I don't think they always totally get the amazing things we do. But that's just my summary of all this stuff. But I get it. So obviously I'm glad you went this direction. But so outpatient, what made you choose this particular part? Because I mean, PT's hospital, outpatient, skilled nursing, sports. Like, what made you pick outpatient? Yeah, so I had previously worked in the hospital as an emergency room scribe. Oh, nice. Okay. So this was when I thought I wanted to be a doctor, in particular, an emergency room doctor. Oh, wow. Okay. Absolutely not. But that's why we try things. I'm always telling people that are asking me for career advice. I'm like, you just got to shadow and you got to try it out. Yeah. It's really, sometimes you don't know until you're in the midst of it. Yeah. You're like, and honestly, if you are a medical student that's listening to this podcast and you're like curious about other stuff, like 100% recommend being an ER scribe, because you are front row. You get to see and hear the doctors because they're dictating to you as you're typing, right? Okay. You get to hear their critical thinking. You get to hear their differential diagnoses. And then the really nice ones will teach you like what they're looking for. They I think all of them gave me gave me school advice. Okay. And then they were so nice. They're like, see you in a couple of years. It's like super sweet. So you get front row seat to the ER to see what all these cases look like, ranging from like urgent care cases to like true coding emergency emergencies where you are front row taking notes on your clipboard while the team is doing chest compressions.
Oh, wow.
So I've been in the hospital setting before. And then as part of our rotations, we do inpatient as well. And then combined with my experience as a veterinary assistant as well, I told myself, I am not going to be in a setting where urine and fecal matter are on a daily occurrence. Not saying that can't happen in outpatient, because you know, you never say never. Like it could happen.
I have had both happen.
Oh shit. No.
Literally, actually, yes. But
yeah. And my friend who's also outpatient said the same thing. She's like, he's got a dookie on his shirt. So anyways, yeah. So born out of my experience working in the hospital and my skilled nursing facility, and as a veterinary assistant, I was like, I want to be in a place where there's the lowest chance of having urine and fecal matter. So acute care just isn't for me. Because of that, but also the exercises that you're doing, it's not that they're not as meaningful, they're just different. Yeah. In acute care, my feeling that I got, because I got just a skilled nursing facility, so not quite acute, you're doing assessments, which is what we did in the SNF too. SNF is skilled nursing facility. So you're doing assessments, and then you're moving people out of bed, and you're teaching them like that type of mobility, which is meaningful. It is. Yes. Really meaningful.
We appreciate you PTs that are in the hospital. Like, I don't want to do that.
But that's not for me. I mean, I'm still teaching people how to sit down and stand up, and bed mobility and stuff in the clinic. But in the outpatient clinic, I also get to rehab CrossFit athletes. Right. I also get to work with like marathon runners. So, and that's the variety that I'm looking for. So that's what brought me into outpatient. That, and I also just, I don't feel like I'm equipped for acute care.
I get it. To be honest, that was at the end of my rotation in the hospital. The last person, their catheter bag broke on me. And I went home and I threw all my shit away. And I was like, nope, no hospital. Like, I don't need pee on me. I don't need this like literal crap. I'm good. I was like anti-bodily fluids. But again, I still face them, but on a little less frequent. Like maybe once a year, I may have something where I'm like, oh, what happened here? But, you know, to be honest, way less bodily fluids. And I get it, because acute care, I felt like I spent more of my time chasing the patient down, making sure they were stable. Can they get up? And it's basically like figuring out what to do with them. Get them up, get them to the next thing. Get them up, get them to the next thing. Outpatient therapists, I feel like you get to know the story. You get to know the story. You get to find stuff that's functional for that person. So that's a little bit why I'm biased. But I have friends that they love being able to help finding the person where they go. And I feel like that's the cool part about PT is there's multiple areas.
Yeah, there's lots of places to go. Yeah.
So now we get to delve into, what are you not like what are some of your daily frustrations as an outpatient therapist, or just in general with the profession?
Yeah. So now that I'm 9 months in, I mean, I saw it 3 months in, I said to my manager, who is still my mentor, I told her, I understand completely why PTs are burnt out, why the rate of burnout is so high. So in our company, we're looking at stuff like reimbursement rates, and then how many patients we have to see per hour
to actually make a profit.
Yeah.
Or pay the bills, right?
Right. And it's frustrating because like, I don't want to think about numbers. I don't want to be a clinic manager or a clinic owner. In fact, like I just hire me, pay me a salary so I can see my patients the way that I think that they need to be done. And I still hold that standard to myself. Like, fine, if it's easy for me to adjust things to get that extra unit to make the whoever oversees these numbers happy, fine. But if it's not right for the patient, I'm not going to do it. You know, I'm not going to go out of my way to adjust numbers and stuff. So it's frustrating because they stack your schedule in a way where they're like, you have to see this many patients. And it's because reimbursement rates are not as high as they have been, as far as I understand. And Medicare is continuing to do that. So, yeah. So it's just not ideal. And I feel strange complaining about it because my company is a lot better than some of my friends that are in the industry, where it's just like, every 15 minutes is a new patient. And then they do heavy manual, which again, there's nothing wrong with manual, but the PT is doing manual and the exercises are being taught and led by a tech, right? Which if your listeners aren't aware, techs are not licensed individuals. They're just taught by PTs, and in our bylaws, our statutes, like it's up to the PT to vet the knowledge and teach the knowledge of this tech and know where their limitations are. And I don't really agree with that.
Well, there are tech schools. So there's like tech training programs. So there's like Carrington, I think, has one that's like a 6-month program where they can go and do a thing. Okay. So most techs I've run into have been on the job training, right? Like they come and they learn, or they've got an exercise background, or they do whatever. But I have ran into some, because I thought I was getting a PT assistant student and it was a tech. And I was like, whoa. Like, it's a very different, now I can't have you doing manual. Now I can't have, it's just exercise based. But so there are some schools.
I did not know that.
But I also, as terrible as it's going to sound, if you're a tech or you want to be a PT tech, I wouldn't waste $1 gazillion on a school. No. Just train on the job. It's much cheaper. Yeah. But
and you're not expected to have schooling.
Yes. So it goes in the rank of like PT tech, right? Who can just do this. And then you have a PT assistant, and then you have an actual PT. So what are some of the things you've ran into? Because again, it's nothing against techs. Like, I've had some amazing ones where I could just like do the things and I knew that they'd be amazing. But I've also had the other end of the spectrum where I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. So I, as a PT, am very, very peculiar about the language that I use with my patients. I learned this as a stockbroker. How you talk to people really changes how they react to you and what they will do. So I'm very careful about the language that I use. So I never make someone feel like their body is weak, their body is broken. I steer completely away from negative language. Patients, not knowing what everyone is in their roles, will ask our aide questions about their condition, their healing, and such. And she doesn't quite have the wherewithal to understand that she should not be answering these questions. Like, that is something, even my assistant was like, whoa. Right. I wouldn't even answer that. I'd defer to you. Right. So my licensed assistant knows his scope of practice, and I'll hear him from across the room. He's like, that's a question for Tasha or for our manager. I know how I would answer it, but I want to make sure it's correct, which is fantastic. I love having an assistant like that.
Right.
But sometimes the text, it's like she doesn't have the same background as someone and she doesn't even have like a kinesiology degree, So sometimes I'll hear her answering questions and I'll be like, oh God. Oh God.
And then you're going to have to do damage control with that particular patient later. And probably for many visits after.
Yeah. It's just it's a variable that you can't quite control. And then it makes you do double the work, because I have to teach an exercise to the tech, and then I have to get her to know the exercises well enough to teach it to the patient.
And then also to know when they're cheating or they're compensating or like that they're doing it right.
So our company is doing something where they are having us have a tech, and it's for the reimbursement rates.
Okay.
There's something about like an extension.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. To use a tech. Right. So they're utilizing techs, and I don't agree with it. So I don't use the techs. I know my patients' programs, and I know their exercises well enough. And I can, at this point, I'm familiar enough with how to adjust my time.
Okay.
So I only ever see 2 patients at a time.
Nice. Okay.
So, and then I look ahead at my day and like, okay, I'll do manual at the beginning, or I'll do manual at the end, or we'll see if this person needs manual. You just shift around.
Right.
And then I do ask them for help, because we have 2 techs now. There's always one, but I do ask them like, hey, can you set this up? But I never ask them, hey, can you lead them through their exercises?
Right.
Because even if a patient's been doing the exercise for a while, I still don't trust them.
Yeah.
And there's certain people that just their bodies don't quite do what they think they're doing.
Yes. But kinesthetic learners, right? Kinesthetic learners.
Yes. I greatly dislike the PT term motor moron. I don't like using that term. Just like some people are just not as coordinated. Like,
although I am a motor moron, so I can't say that.
Well, you and I are dancers, and like we're used to like moving our bodies and like doing different shapes and stuff. So like I get it. It's a little easier for me and you. But like, some people are like, oh God, that is not what I taught you.
I think for me, sometimes it depends what I'm doing, but I'm like, just move my body and let me feel it, and then I got you.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting though with the tech part of it, because okay, as a patient, you come in, you don't know that someone's a tech versus a PT versus a PTA, right? And also you're like, you don't even maybe know what that means. And it's nothing against the general population and their education on it, it's just something particular to that. So you show up and whoever comes out and talks to you, you assume that is the authority figure and you do what they tell you, which is how we want you to respond, right? We want you to do what you're told and whatever. And I like, because they're in that role. But also, like, I think what I like from PT is that I feel like we're more like a team, right? Like doctors, it's very much do this. I gave you this medication. PT, I feel like we get to our goals together. I have a way I want to direct you, but like, let's work together. But the hard part is that I think patients don't realize. So then they are doing these funky things or not understanding. And if you don't have a well-trained tech who's giving them answers and you're on the other side of the room like, oh crap, and I've had instances where I've spent time teaching the tech these exercises, say, okay, go teach this to the person, turn around 2 seconds later and the person's doing, I don't know what the hell. And I'm like, that is not working any of the things. And then, or the tech is demonstrating and they can't even do the exercise. And you're like, how are you teaching people when you can't do them? And so it's just I think the hard part is because of those insurance rates. So like PTs have to get creative. And it sounds terrible that you're
right. Like it's a gray area.
You're like driving some ethical line that just to be able to do your job and try to and it's sad for me to say like, oh, it's pretty good. You only have to manage 2 people, right?
Right. Because the ideal would be like one-on-one care, as much time as it needs, and then one-on-one, like kind of like a personal training session, honestly. Like I come from a personal training background, and like your personal trainer's there with you the entire time, watching your form, doing this, but I can't quite do that. Right. I kind of have to just like, okay, here's your rep ranges, and then you walk away to check on your other patient.
Right. And you're kind of like eyeballing him from the corner.
My patients are always like, you're watching me? Like, yes, I'm always watching you. Watching
keep that in mind while you're doing the things. No, and that's what's hard. And also patients don't get that either, right? Because they're like, well, why aren't you here? What are you doing? And they don't understand. And that's also a little bit, again, kind of why I've kind of switched out of that a little bit to my own thing. Or you see a lot of PTs moving to cash basis only, right? They're not accepting insurance because insurance dictates how many visits you can have. They're based on some formula that says give them these 5 visits and send them home.
Yeah.
And I'm not pro like milking insurance for whatever, but I also like when someone can show more improvement or can do better things, why would I just send them off knowing they're not going to perform these exercises at home and I'll see them again in like a month or so when they re-hurt themselves. But I don't know. So it's kind of that thing. I was going to have you touch a little bit. So you start having the tech thing, the Medicare rules and like, and all the fun stuff. So like, because everyone just comes in and they're like, but I have insurance. It should cover my things, right? And I should get all this amazing therapy and it should be one-on-one and I should get all this stuff. And like,
yeah.
And they don't understand all the stuff you're juggling.
Yeah. The Medicare guidelines, like I get why they have so many guidelines, but like, it makes it so hard. It makes it so hard to schedule because you're expected to see 2 patients an hour, but the 2 patients cannot be both Medicare,
right?
Per those guidelines. So then it makes your schedule very interesting if you are in a population that is very high Medicare. So like my first clinic was in a very, very much a retirement community. This one that I'm at right now, also the same thing. So sometimes it makes it it's a lot. And so we color code our scheduler. And so Medicare patients are red. They're like, no double reds, no double reds. And it's like, for the first part, so like the scheduling part is a nightmare. But now it's like, it seems so weird that just by having a tech, the extension clause, that an unlicensed tech will allow you to have more units somehow. Right? That makes no sense.
Right. Because then you're like, you're giving a person who doesn't have as much education, nothing personal, again, them, right? Like it's super, but somehow by having that one person, but that you couldn't really delegate to normally allows you to do these things.
Yeah. And it's apparently something with how the clause is written, like they're an extension of your hands. So like you're helping set up equipment and then you're supervising the whole time, which I'm supervising the whole time anyways.
Right.
So, yeah, the Medicare things are making it's making it harder to be for, I think, the companies to be reimbursed. It doesn't make it necessary. It's more of an annoyance as a staff PT because I just have to roll my eyes internally and do all the things, put in the extra clauses in my documentation.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'm still doing what's best for all my patients.
Right.
Like I'm doing what's best for them. But for a while I was underbilling because I don't want to be caught in an audit, you know? So I was greatly underbilling. I got to talk to my manager. He's like, okay, we got to teach you how to bill for this. I'm like, I'm doing what I think is safe and what I was taught at my last clinic. So like, you have something else. But now it feels really sketch because now I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. And so that's why I understand why people are moving towards cash pay, because like the pressure that we get from the powers that be to do certain things, it's like, all right, I'm listening to you, but I'm not really. Well, I'm still going to do what's right. I'll do my best. And I guess if it happens, it happens.
You know, and they're looking at it like, we got to make the bills to pay the building. We got to pay for this. We got to pay for that. Right. So they're trying to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get you. But at the same time, yeah, there is that pressure. So as a therapist, I think people don't even realize that, like, you have to worry about your patients, worry about what they're doing, planning for their stuff, making sure they're doing their home stuff, making sure there's no other contraindications. You're looking at all of their medical history, right? So we have a background where you have to, like, you're looking for that in it, right? But at the same point, you have to think about insurance. You have to be billing correctly, but also like enough to bring in money, not too much that you're actually like putting yourself in risk where you could get Medicare audited because they're going to pull your national provider ID. And so you're worried about a liability insurance. So I feel like sometimes people have no idea when they come in, they're like, I'm just going to exercise and be tortured. And you're in your mind, you're like, there's so many things to think about, right? Like, yeah, I'm working so hard for you and I'm trying to keep my job and I like what I do, but I don't want to, yeah, but it does feel like there's a small sketchy line that insurance has kind of like pushed therapists towards, right? To be able to survive. And that's why I feel like, and now what I think Medicare is not reimbursing as much for a physical therapy assistant. So then they're all definitely wanting the PTs to see all the Medicares because that's where your money comes. And so it just makes it like this like cycle of
the amount of documentation that we have to do too, because like writing down every single exercise. So I was with this company that I'm with right now as a student, and at that point we would put therapeutic exercise as a line item, list all the exercises and then the total time for that. So then you would be able to just list your exercises. Now we have to document for every single exercise, how long did it take them to do that individual exercise? Oh my God. Minute by minute, every single line. So I've seen some of like the Google reviews on some PT clinics, like they're always on their computers. They're always looking at their computers. Like, do you think we want to be on our computers? Right. I would rather be with you. Like literally, I will do my exercises with my patients that are like part of my personal home exercise program. Valid. So I will exercise with my patients, and that's my favorite part of being a PT, but documentation. If it's not documentation for the patient beforehand, it's the initial evaluation from earlier that day. There's just so much documentation that has to happen.
I mean, you could just be like, okay, fine, I will just exercise and do my things, right? And then you go home that night and you're going to do 5 hours of paperwork and not have a life.
And I've definitely done that before. So it's like finding that delicate balance between like putting away your computer and having that connection with your patient. Right. And then, but also getting your shit done. And
so
it's
that
like,
you can actually have a life when you're not working.
Yeah. I did hear about a classmate that has a job as a hand therapist that gets an hour of documentation.
Whoa.
Yeah. Paid. Like,
wow.
Yeah. Isn't that right?
I know. It's kind of, and the sad part is we're like, what? You have time to document?
You have time to pay to document?
Yeah.
Wow. Paid hour to document?
What kind of company is this?
Must be nice.
Right. And that's the sad part, because in anybody in the medical profession, I think that's the part, right? Because when you go see your doctor, they're like dictating and you're like, hello, I'm sitting here. Yeah. But they're thinking, I got 20 gazillion people. So documentation is necessary, but it's,
but it's a pain.
It's a pain. Because I've been called into court cases where I've had to like look at my documentation, and there's times I'm like, shit, I did a terrible job. Like, this is terrible. But so it is a necessary evil. Yeah. But it's like one of those things. So then when patients are like, why are you on your computer? You're like, because I'm just ignoring you because I'm an asshole. But like, but you're like, I'm trying to survive here.
Yeah, and that's my nightmare too, because it was an example that one of our professors gave. Like, I did documentation on this patient, don't remember a single thing, but my notes were really good. And that was what they used in court. They put it up in court. And I was like, okay, well, I got to do that.
Yes. Yes.
So on a personal level, like I just have my personal standards, because the other thing that I've noticed graduating and becoming a PT, there's other PTs that are not as thorough in their documentation as I would be. I would say that really kindly, because everyone has their own styles, right? Maybe I'm too wordy. Maybe I write too much. But I want to remember what's important, because I'm not going to remember this person's name in like 6 months, you know?
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I remember everyone, but we see so many patients, you know? So I hold myself to that standard, and I know it makes my documentation longer, but I don't want to lose that standard. I don't want to become a lazy PT.
You know, there's two ends of that. It's interesting. I worked my first job because we had to see 1 to 2 patients every 15 minutes, right?
Oh, Jesus.
And so there was one PT I worked with, and when she worked with patients, it was like amazing to watch, right? Because I was looking for a mentor. But most of the time what she did is she just sat down and would just write her notes while the tech ran around and treated everybody. And then she would be like, oh, back pain. And she just had a predetermined set of exercises, just hand them a handout. Neck pain, she had it all. And it was very organized. And that's how you survive that environment.
Yes.
But it made me so sad. And I was like, oh, I don't want this. Like, that's not why I became a physical therapist, right? But at the same point, so I've watched my documentation improve. And it was interesting going into my first court case. I didn't remember, I see the name and then I'm like, I don't know who this is. And I didn't remember the patient until I got on the stand and I saw them and I'm like, oh, that guy, you know, and he won his case and I was very excited. But like, it was one of those things where my notes, because I was hurrying and I was trying to see 25 plus patients a day. And I was like, these are shitty notes. And that was the moment I was like, these are going to be so much better. But I was just doing shitty notes to survive.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I will just take the time to make them better, because screw that, you know, I will not be in that scary ass position again.
Yeah. That's terrifying.
Yeah. I was like, these notes are terrible. I have no memory of this person. And then I saw him. I'm like, oh, okay, I remember him, you know? So fortunately, like people's faces, but like, it was just yeah. I was like, you know, I'm second year out of school. I'm on some court case. I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah. So if you had, I have a couple questions. One, if you had an ideal way to like, say you can structure your PT clinic however you want, or what would your ideal be? Like obviously there's one-on-one care, right? Like you said, the personal training side of it.
Like my whole clinic, dream clinic. Okay. So for background, going way back, going to PT school started as a daydream during my desk job as a financial advisor.
Okay.
Because I would daydream about going to the gym, because that was like the one thing that I did. I was a bodybuilder. I was a competitive bodybuilder too. I wanted to have my own gym.
Oh, nice.
And so I was like, how do I do something in which I can have my own gym? And then that got me thinking. I was like, well, I'd just been a physical therapy patient. Right. And I was like, that was a really cool career. Like, what if I was a PT that had my own clinic and gym? Right. So my ideal, you come see me as a patient, one-on-one care. The thing about cash pay that I think makes it actually better than like insurance based is it makes things more streamlined, because there's some patients that like, I don't really need to see you twice a week. Like the higher level athletes, like I know they can do their exercises. Text me if you have any questions. Right. And then they become my patient. We rehab them. We do all of that one-on-one care, obviously. I think in the ideal environment, I would still take Medicare. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because that's serving a population that one really needs it. Two, a lot of people have that insurance. It really gets sticky, in my opinion, with insurances when you have so many to sift through. Yeah. And that's the nice part of being in a clinic that I don't own, is that there's an entire back end office that does all of that. And has to deal with that. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know what your authorization is. Let me ask my auth person. And there's someone whose job is literally only doing authorizations. So that's why I think I will just learn all the Medicare stuff. Right. Most everyone has Medicare. And then I'll just do Medicare. And then you could structure where you would just see that Medicare person for that hour. Right. Yeah. Because that's it. So my ideal PT clinic would be in a gym where I have all the gym equipment and a dance room. Oh, awesome. Because the thing is, like, do your listeners know that you're an aerialist?
Possibly. I mean, if you go on my website, aerial, there's all the aerial photos. So if you're on the Better Fit Therapy stuff, aerial.
So we're both aerialists. I want to have my own clinic and gym, and clinics are open 8 to 5. Dance studios, pole studios, aerial studios are generally open 5 to 9. Well, I'm going to pay rent for this space. I might as well do something with it.
Right.
So by day, a PT clinic, by night, studio. Yeah. But the ideal would be there's all sorts of other things that I want patients to do for their general health and wellness. Because it's not just exercise to rehab. You want people to get active, healthy lifestyles, right? So you're already in my gym. Let me introduce you to my gym equipment. Let me get you familiar with that. So if the patients are familiar with this gym equipment, they're already coming to a familiar environment in my clinic, then that takes away that fear of, oh my God, gyms are so intimidating. No, come to my gym. Come to Tasha's gym. Then after they discharge as my patient, they can pay a membership. It can be one of those 24-hour gyms where you swipe in and you come in.
That's where I was hoping you were going with this, actually. I was like, please let her have the whole,
and then like we had to read studies about like the helpfulness of like Tai Chi and yoga. A lot of people they put up barriers to doing stuff like that, or like I don't have access, I don't have a place, I don't have membership. If you're my patient while you're under my care, I would love to have someone teach Tai Chi and yoga classes that are free for my patients. Once you're done, those classes are part of your membership. Come by, because I want that barrier of entry to be gone, because so many people are like, I don't know where, it's not easy to get to. I'm like, well, you're already coming to my clinic. Obviously it's close to you
and they're familiar. There's that scary part away.
And so Tai Chi yoga classes in the morning, clinic by day, open gym throughout, and then aerial classes at night too. So like it's a good use of the space from a business standpoint, where it's always generating income of some sort. I get my gym. My patients have no barrier to entry to all these other things that are meaningful to me and to their health. So that is my ideal clinic. I know it's such a, it seems like
you need to make that happen.
Yeah. It seems like such a big dream. And I have so much more to learn just as a clinician, but this has been like, that's been like my, like a little baby dream that I'm holding on to for like 5 years now, because it's pre-PT school.
Right. No. And I think what you touched on is also important, because you do therapy, right? And you're like, good luck in the world. And
goodbye.
Yeah. And nothing personal patients, they're not going to do their shit. I think some of them try, or they go and then they like start having pain again. They're like, I've got to do those things. But if people are like, I should work out or do whatever, I love that membership idea. So I worked at a place that primarily specialized in Medicare, and that was their vision, was when they were done, then the people would invest in like a membership and work out. And so leadership and management issues from that place aside, they had a good idea. They had a good
start.
They didn't know how to run it necessarily or how to do the things. They had a good idea. And, the way we did it was we built it where it felt like a senior community, so that they all felt like they could come and hang out. So in my mind, they're coming, they're hanging out, their friends are there. They're more likely to show up and exercise and do the things and invest in their lifestyle and actually show up for it. And I love that it's that continuation of health, because if I've done my job, you should be functioning, right? But I feel like from a PT perspective, our goal is that your life is amazing, continuing, and that includes activity. And so I love that. I was like, please let her have the membership idea.
Yeah, the membership. I'd love to have all sorts of classes, and especially partner dance classes, especially if I'm only taking Medicare patients. So partner dance classes, especially specifically like tango, ballroom, those easier steps. I did this for a paper for PT school. So I'm very passionate about this. For Parkinson's patients, really good coordination, balance, dynamic balance, and it's fun.
And there's connection.
Yeah. And that social aspect of our aging population, it's so important to have that social connection. So if I have like a dance space, like a ballroom dancing night would be so much fun to have for everyone, if we could just do like a community event every month. I think that would be really meaningful. Or even just ballroom dancing classes in general. I think people of all ages enjoy that. So yeah, it's sneakily adding in PT in their lives, and they don't know that. But yeah, it's a spectrum. and it can't end with PT. They have to keep on being active. And I lay that groundwork down for my patients currently, but we don't have something where it's just like, come in and use the clinic as a gym. My company kind of has that, but it's only for like a month.
Right. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So it's only for a month and doesn't really, it's not too much of a bridge.
Okay.
So I spend a lot of time talking about discharge planning from like the very beginning. Like, you know, these exercises are going to go on forever, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no stopping to this.
I always feel like PTs have to be the ones that like break that to people. Like that we're like, that it's just basically, they're like, but my doctor said I do this and then I'll be fine. And I'm like, welcome to the rest of your life. You know, like, oh, yeah, like, you know, like, whatever it may be. Maybe you just strain something in an ideal world or just whatever. But yeah, that's not usually it. Welcome to arthritis. You need to do this. You need to keep this. Like, welcome to the rest of your life. And I feel like we have to have that conversation with everybody. And they're always like mad at you about it. Like, you did this to them. And I'm like, no, I'm just the one breaking it to you. Like, yeah. I mean, again, I'm like, if you're okay with pain and this is where you want to be, don't do these, you know, which I know sounds terrible, but I'm super excited by the dance component because we started introducing that with our Medicares.
Did you?
And
how's it going? This sounds like so much fun.
And it was fun actually. And it makes me a little sad that like I'm not up there doing the things anymore on a level, right? Like, but they were responding so well and they were asking for dances. Like, we should have a dance night. We had a guy who had it was one of the few things like with his brain connection, like he could start to do the YMCA or, you know, that's what kind of brought him to life and it would bring them all back to life. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, make your stuff happen. So
dance and music just does something. And it just, I think that's why I've always been drawn to dance. And therefore it makes sense that I became a PT. There's something about movement and dance and music that like drives people. Like when I was in memory care, you put on some bachata music and these little ladies just absolutely lit up. These ladies that were just staring into the walls for hours, they would start dancing. And it was amazing. And it's so meaningful to me. I just want to give it to the community. So, right. I will make it happen one day.
Yes. Okay.
I don't know when, but it's gonna take a while. Gotta get some income, get some capital.
Keep that dream alive. Keep married.
Yeah.
So a couple more questions, and then we'll so were you in school during COVID then?
Oh my God. So I graduated 2022.
Okay.
I started school in 2019.
Okay.
So I got through like 9 months of school. And then the last quarter of my first year, we showed up to class and we're like, so we don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to play it by ear. And then I became a COVID student, which was not ideal.
Right.
So yes, I was and in fact, the hands-on part of PT, like the physical part of physical therapy, was in the midst of COVID.
Okay.
So imagine not having partners to practice on. Imagine not having any feedback as you're doing palpation.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Imagine trying to learn manual skills by watching videos.
Okay.
So I am very self-conscious as a newer therapist of my manual skills. I was lucky, so unlucky. My second rotation was at a very heavy manual sports clinic where all I did was manual. It was that every 15 minutes a patient thing.
So you were constantly
I was constantly. Okay. So I got that made up to me in that rotation.
Right.
And also your rotations are what you make of it.
Yeah.
So I went out of my way to do manual, as uncomfortable as it is. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But honestly, the more bodies you put your hands on, which is weird as that sounds, but PTs get it. PTs, massage therapists probably get it too. More bodies you work with, the more you learn how to feel things. But because I didn't get that in school, and because I know I didn't get that in school, I've always been a little self-conscious about that part. Because it's like, I don't know if my manual skills are good or not. As far as like the academic part of being a pandemic student, not good.
Okay.
Because it's really hard to pay attention to Zoom meetings. I think we all know that. Having all been through Zoom meetings, they're not the best. So imagine having lecture, but like not having like, you can raise your hands on Zoom, right? You can raise your hand, but it's not the same as being in class. It's not the same as having your professor show you on a model or give demonstrations.
Or being right there where you're like engaged.
So it was rough. It was not
Mhm.
ideal, but we got through it. I still
Mhm.
graduated. I still got a
Okay.
job. I still
Yeah.
got a job despite my employer knowing I was a pandemic student. But
Right.
yeah, it was not ideal.
Okay. I was wondering how that went for schools because I was working and they had where some poor students couldn't find places to do rotations because
Yeah.
PT clinics were closing or they
Yeah.
couldn't do whatever. So that's when I started taking students again because they needed somewhere to go. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. We're still working,
Yeah.
but
Which was very nice of you.
I was like, okay, what's happening? I guess what I'd like to go into like healthcare, what would you like people to know about physical therapy in general? And then we'll go even more broad. Like,
I wish people thought this is my first immediate thought is I wish people didn't think that we were massage therapists.
Yes.
So you can't tell if you're listening as a podcast listener, I am Asian American. There's all sorts of stereotypes that come with being an Asian American woman, and especially these massage parlors. And so I am very cognizant of when people say, I want a massage. I'm like, cool. I know an excellent massage therapist that I go to myself, but I'm not a massage therapist. I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I use soft tissue techniques, but they are not the same. If you truly want like a massage, I have a fantastic gal that works on me. I'm happy to give you a referral to her.
Right.
And then it just comes down to a lot of education. But I wish people knew a little bit more about what we do.
Yeah.
I'd love to call us movement experts, but I feel like some people in our field don't quite carry that flag as much, but we are movement experts. That's what we do. And our scope is just so strange for people to understand.
Yes.
So, and then it just boils down to, I heard you guys give massages. No, I don't.
As terrible as it sounds with those people, I'm always like, oh yeah, I'll massage you. You're going to regret your life decision. Then, I mean, you know what I mean? There's massage therapists that are obviously very strong and do the things, but I'm like, we just do sugar pint and like going hot,
Yeah.
and they're like, that's not what I thought I was getting.
Like, you think you're getting a massage? My elbow's going in your butt cheek.
Basically, I'm like, welcome to manual therapy.
I'm like, that's not what you think it is.
Yeah,
okay.
I know. So it just, I feel like on some level, and again, maybe just I'm obviously biased because I love this profession, but I feel like we offer a lot of things that people just don't understand. And they don't understand the scope, the patient education, that we can help with the manual. We can help with these, again, like, let's get you your goals. Let's analyze stuff. Let's peel back these layers for people. I think they don't always understand all the education and stuff that actually went into this profession, but it's not the point, but it is the point. So healthcare in general, like, I've been interviewing different people and we've been kind of talking about a little bit of the system being broken, but one person actually told me, which was a good perspective, it's not broken. It's the Western medical field is doing what it does.
Yeah.
Or what it's designed to do, I guess. So what would you want or advice, or if you could change something about the way we do medicine, what would that be?
It needs to be more preventative. It needs to be more preventative rather than reactive. That's really what immediately when you said Western versus Eastern. Yeah, it strikes me as we're more reactive. Right. And that's just the lifestyles we have, right? So we react to things like, oh no, at this point you're diabetic. Now we react and give you these things.
Now you take these drugs.
Right. Rather than, well, if we have active, healthy lifestyles and we have our weight under control, which that's a whole different conversation. But if we prevent these things, then we don't have to do that, right? We don't have to react to things. We want to prevent things from happening. So like smoking cessation being one of the first things that I think of when I'm talking about this route. And then really, no one really understands nutrition. And that affects so much. And then being active. Being active would be what physical therapists do. Right. So we react to injuries rather than getting ahead of them. So for like a preteen soccer team of girls, I don't want to see an ACL tear, right? Because women, we're just at higher risk for that with our hips and our Q angles and all that good stuff. I don't want to react to some poor girl having an ACL tear. Let's get them on a preventative care program, preventative exercises, prehab exercises, because we have studies that have shown that doing prehab decreases the rate of injury. So as PTs, that would be where we fall in, but all of medicine could be so much better with preventative care and wellness, and just knowing the risk factors in your family. Like, I know I'm at higher risk for breast cancer in my family. I'm mitigating that by being as healthy as I can be.
Right.
So it's not enough preventative and then just whole body wellness. We don't treat the whole body. We treat very analytically. And I mean this by, we treat things that we see and feel with the body, but we also don't teach people to take care of themselves spiritually, which I know sounds very ooh, rah, rah, that people don't really quite buy into that, but it makes a difference.
Right.
We have to make sure that people feel whole too, because that absolutely affects their health and wellness. So we don't, as a society and as medical professionals in the medical fields in general, do not take enough care about how our patients are spiritually. And that makes a big difference, because I will ask my patients, like, how are you feeling? I'm a little depressed because of XYZ. Just make them feel better about that. The storm will pass. This will get better. But I don't know how many other PTs, how many other healthcare providers are able to have that conversation. Because again, going back, you only see 15 minutes with your PCP. How are you going to have a deep heart to heart, right? And with my patients that I see all the time, like, they'll tell me, I'm frustrated. I'm still dealing with this. Why am I still dealing with this? And that's when you can have those deeper conversations. And you can say, I know this is meaningful to you. I'm going to get you back to doing this, right? We have to look out for mind, body, spirit. And I know we talk about that in school, but how many people are actually doing that? And like, for one of my patients, she can't go to church because her sciatica is so bad. And I was like, I'm going to get you back to church. I'm going to find ways to do that. I'm going to find ways for you to be able to go to church. Now, she's Catholic, so getting up and down, like, okay, maybe you're not going to be able to get up and down all the way. Kneeling. Yeah, all the kneeling. But that's okay. I'm going to get you in that building.
Right.
So, we don't stress enough about taking care of the entire body and the mind and the spirit.
And I say Western medicine because, again, I'm saying like the state of healthcare in the United States. So that's why I generalize. But, it's interesting. And I kind of told this story. Again, I don't know where the research came from, but I was watching an episode of Scrubs from a while ago, and it was saying the average physician listens 8 seconds before they've already made a decision medically what's going on with the patient, right? Which I get. You've got 15 minutes, you're like, let's roll. You've seen these things. And there was an episode where this lady was in there and she had these symptoms, and they kept like, they come in, they'd like, oh, no, then they'd run back out and run another test. And it was finally at the end of the episode, the one intern, of course, or the resident sat and he replayed everything that she had said, and it turned out she had actually been trying to kill herself. That's why she was in the hospital. She had like poisoned herself, and then she was getting the attention, right? He played back. Her fiance had broken up with her. She had this happen in her life. This had happened in her life. She was now in a place where people were taking care of her. She was getting fed. Like, she wanted to be in the hospital. She was doing that to herself. And it wasn't until they addressed the psychological part of it that she would actually find improvement, which I found is interesting. And that's also, I think, from a PT perspective, where we actually do get to have, if you take the time and do that connection, where you have patients that will I'll have patients that'll break down crying because they're frustrated about what their injury has done to them. And nobody always, like, there's the whole thing about the psychological part of the injury, right? Like, what it does to your life, how it makes these changes. And if you don't actually address that, you're not addressing. So I really appreciate you mentioning that side of it, because I feel like, so we see that, right? But we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about it enough.
Not enough.
Yeah. And prevention is that thing, right? Like in schools, I appreciate also that you brought up for the sports teams. And again, budgets, and obviously there's so much behind that issue of schools not even getting funding there. But I've seen so much improvement when, like, even just like bringing yoga into training or teaching kids how to properly lift. Like, you've got these kids in there doing this stuff and you're like, ooh, who taught you weight training? Like, what is this madness you're doing? And they're getting injured, but then they're going out and they're not, because they weren't trained. But had they been just given this, then you're not going to have broken kids that are 18, right?
Yeah.
So, and can't play sports anymore. So it's these things. And again, I appreciate, that's very well said on the prevention side of it. But so I guess any last thoughts, anything you want to share? Like, obviously, like, I'm excited that you're starting your career. We're hoping the insurance world doesn't scare you away. I want you to keep the nugget of the baby dream in there because I think that sounds like an amazing clinic to go to. So I love it. So any last things that you'd like to share on any of the things?
No, I truly appreciate the opportunity to talk about like the state of healthcare and all that stuff. My last thoughts are keep moving, keep doing something that makes you happy. Find a movement that brings you joy and do that, because then it won't feel like exercise. That's how I became an aerialist. Like I got sick of bodybuilding. Lifting was boring. So find something that makes your heart happy that doesn't feel like exercise and do that.
Yeah, that's why I know. That's like to find the stuff you love. So I love it. Perfect. Thank you again, Tasha. You guys are welcome, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Thank you again for tuning in to the SOH, or State of Healthcare. This is Tracy Karras from Better Fit Therapy, asking you to tune in each week as a new podcaster. If you can like, subscribe, share with your friends, find us on social media, but also feel free to comment. Let us know some areas you'd like to explore. What are some concerns you have with healthcare? Let us find some areas that would help relate to you, what's going on with everybody else, and help me raise some awareness so that we can work on some change. Thank you again, and have a good night.